Hello, everybody. I am Matt Connerton. This is Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades. And to my right, counting us in, was the Honorable Gary S. Hopper. Well, Paul was counting us in, but you were
counting.
You were kind of helping him there with
I was hoping to count in case he lost track.
But you kept going.
He's kind of older. He's kind of older, so sometimes you start going, and then you just go. I don't know where I am.
You young whippersnappers are so helpful.
I know.
Yes,
that's what they call me, the snapper of whippers.
Yes, from the helpful generation.
Exactly.
Yes.
There was the greatest generation, then there was the helpful generation, I think it's been called.
I think so. Yes.
Yeah.
Soon everyone will call it that. This is going to go viral. I'm an optimist.
Okay. So
Quite
tonight,
the dramatic pause.
yes. Tonight we have Katherine Prudhomme O'Brien, who is a state rep from some town down south.
That's right.
Oh, I thought you were from New Hampshire.
Yes,
I didn't know you were from down south.
Down south from here.
South
Oh.
of here.
Oh, I get it.
Way
Yeah,
down
I'm
south.
from
I thought you
Derry.
meant
I'm from
Alabama or
Derry.
something.
No. What?
Derry, New Hampshire.
Derry, so
Yes,
I was.
Northern
See,
Ireland.
that is south.
How do you say it? Because I've been corrected. I've been told it's actually pronounced Derry.
Derry.
Derry. I used to work in Derry, and they would make fun of me saying
Just
it
don't say
Derry.
Derry.
They would.
Derry is incorrect.
Derry is right. See, they told me it sounds like I'm shopping for milk or something.
Right, it's Derry.
Derry.
What is that organization that you want to invite them to join?
I'm not sure what you're talking
About the accent?
Oh, Nespua. I am the founder of Nespua, but that's another show.
Nespua?
Yes, the New
Nespua?
England Society for the Preservation of Our Accent.
Ah.
Yes, it's to encourage the appreciation for the New England accent, which is, of course, a beautiful natural resource to be highly appreciated.
Beautiful is not necessarily the word I would use to describe it, but it is
that's
unique.
incorrect.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
We can
And
appreciate it nonetheless.
A southern accent is beautiful.
It is a shameless vehicle for saying that the New England accent is a beautiful thing, and that includes New Hampshire, Boston.
Like wicked
Merrimack
awesome.
Valley.
Wicked awesome is a cool word, but beautiful is probably not the correct term.
It is beautiful.
It's wicked beautiful then?
It's wicked beautiful.
All
You could
right.
say that.
You could
It's
say
wicked
that.
beautiful.
I'll compromise on
Yeah.
wicked beautiful.
Yeah, that's wicked good. I like
Wicked
that.
awesome.
Yeah.
It's
I
wicked
thought
awesome.
beautiful accent was going to be my cue.
See, that's what it is.
I thought way
Southern
down
people are
south
always
was gonna
told
be
it's
my
beautiful,
cue.
and I am jealous, and that's what the whole thing is about.
There we go.
So here's our Southerner. Let's introduce our
Way
Southerner.
down south.
Dolly Kyle is from way down south,
Way down south.
not as far south as my daddy,
Which was?
New Orleans.
Nolans.
Right, Nolans. It's not New Orleans.
No, it's Nolans. N-A-W.
I used to.
L-I-N-S,
You'll
Nolans.
love this. You'll love this. I used, as a little dude, I used to sit in the bathtub, and back then they didn't have.
This already sounds like TMI.
I'm sorry.
They didn't have.
Okay. Wait a minute.
They didn't have plumbing back then.
He was like a baby or something, he means.
No,
Yeah.
like I was like about this big.
Oh,
So
okay.
anyway,
Oh.
you know how like the kids have action figures and they can do all kinds of crap? Well, ours couldn't. They were just pretty much a statue of plastic. And I had General Robert E. Lee and General Grant, and they would fight each other in the bathtub. And
What?
I know something about the Civil War, and they didn't have plastic.
Nor did they fight in bathtubs, if I understand my history.
No, they probably didn't do a lot
These
of that.
people are not going to be historically accurate. I can see that
No,
coming.
no.
No, that's it's hysterically accurate.
There we go.
Yes.
Okay, I can deal with that.
Okay, wait, before we get started. So last week we did the unboxing of my new LC9, okay? So I went over, because one of the problems with the LC9 is the top slide is, just to make sure everybody knows, this is completely unloaded. I don't know if you can zoom in on this, my friend from the other room.
Leave it up.
Yeah, it's up. Zoom, 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 zoom.
Remember that show, Zoom?
Zoom and zoom and zoom. What was zoom and zoom and zoom from?
On PBS?
Yes, it was
It's on PBS?
out of Boston.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
I just
GBH.
apologize for ever watching it.
You're
Anyway,
zoomed.
that's perfect. That's perfect. Anyway, I got this, the top slide done over at Wicked Weapons in Hookset. Thank you. And it's a, now I'm going to forget the name of it again. It's Cerakote. It's coated with, I did not tungsten, but something like that. I did a dark color because I didn't want it to glare when the sun hit, so I couldn't see the sights. But anyway, I think it came out really, really nice. So
I think it would be cool if every week, as a recurring thing, you toward the beginning of the show, you say, "Before we get started," and you reach for a weapon. Just do that every week. This should be like the first week of that. I think that'd be fun.
that's a good idea.
Gotta have recurring themes, you know.
But anyway, I thought that was pretty awesome. They did a nice job. Took about a week because they happened to have it. I was going to do hot pink, but
Takes a confident man to carry around a hot pink gun.
yeah, I was going to do that. It'd be good, actually. Hot pink would have been perfect because if I drop it in the woods, I'd be able to see it.
That is true.
And it would be returned to you.
Yes.
There was not a guy on the planet who was going to hold on to it. Yeah, that's really cool, Gary. Thanks. Here, take it back before somebody sees me with it. Anyway, so that's my distraction for the. Oh, that's the first distraction
Yes.
for the easy. So Dolly, most hosts. I've seen you on other shows because as soon as I found out you were going to be on, I did some research. Can say with sincerity they read the book, and I did not.
I wouldn't have expected it.
No, not from. I'm Irish. We don't do that reading and all that stuff.
I'm Irish too. Yeah.
It's not something we do.
Yeah.
So tell us what happened.
Sister Mary Brendan would not have approved.
I'm not Catholic. I'm not that. I'm not that
Sister
kind of
Mary
Irish.
Brendan was Irish, and she insisted that all books be read. Every book you could find and get your hands on, you had to read it.
Like Mein Kampf. Whole doesn't matter.
Probably not that.
So anyway, some of the interviews you said you met Bill. Tell people what the backdrop of this thing is, because some people might not even be aware of the book.
Where's your camera?
You can look at me just fine.
Where's your camera?
I don't know. I think it's somewhere over there, but usually we just look back at each other. It's like a conversation, but you can do whatever you want.
If you can, he'd prefer it if you gaze upon him lovingly.
Well, I did tell
Is that
him
what he
I like the color of that shirt, so I will look this way.
There you go. All right.
Okay, I grew up in Hot Springs, Arkansas. I met Billy Clinton when I was 11.
Yeah.
We met on the golf course at the Belvedere Country Club in Hot Springs. I was 11, Billy was 12 going on 13. And it was, as the Italians say, the Thunderbolt.
Thunderbolt. Love at first sight.
Love at
kinda.
first sight.
Or
absolutely.
passion at first sight, anyway.
Well, something
Something magical.
magical, big, deep, and long-lasting.
Okay.
And mutual, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we became friends. We were in high school together. We became friends in high school, more friendly, and dated. We did not go steady in high
Right.
school with each other or with anyone else, and we did not have sex in high school. And there are stories written that say it was after high school. Well, it was. It was 10 years after high school. So most of what I have read about me is incorrect if I didn't write it myself.
Okay.
So you take everything with a bit of grain of salt. But in this book that I wrote, I put out my own dirty laundry, because one of the things that the Clintons do to keep people quiet is to threaten them, some sort of intimidation and blackmail, if you will. So it's all in here. There's no secrets.
Just to side.
But
another
it's
side
not
note.
salacious.
My fine representative from Derry says that these look like I'm trying to hide something, so I'll take those off. Those are transition lenses, so they get dark when the lights hit. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, let me see your eye color.
Blotchy. I don't know if that's
Blotchy.
I know. I like the red, white, and blue. That's good.
Thank you.
Very
Thank you much.
patriotic.
Yeah.
Gary's a true patriot.
Yeah, even in his eyes. Anyway, so I had this long-term relationship with Billy, and I don't know where we want to go with this. I mean, I got 292 pages.
Holy mackerel! You definitely were going to.
You're not going to read this.
Ever reading that.
You're never going to read this. You're never going to read
There's
this
no
book.
picture. Is there pictures in it?
There are
'Cause that-
no pictures,
see, I don't know.
no dirty pictures, no plain pictures, but you can
Cartoons,
go.
maybe nothing.
Do you know something really nice about this book is each chapter stands alone, and I read the intro, and it was really interesting that you have an interesting way of writing this book where you could pick it up, read one chapter, and then go to another chapter and read that, and it doesn't, it assumes that you
They're
haven't
not so
read
completely dependent that you have to
on the other
remember
chapters.
exactly what.
Exactly.
Oh,
So-
that's
so-
actually really cool for.
So sometimes it seems like she's repeating herself if you didn't know that fact about that, but for someone like you, or anyone who wanted to read it, like
For someone like you.
for someone like you with reading problems, anyone,
Concentration problems,
Me?
memory problems, all of that, yeah.
it's nice that you could read it like all over the place. Oh, I like the title of this one. I like the title of this chapter. You could just go all over the place.
You got a chapter on the Second Amendment?
Yes, Hillary the
I
Hunter.
do,
As a matter of-
Hillary the Hunter.
Ironically, I just opened to that.
Oh. What is that? What is
I'll
okay?
pay you later. Good job, Catherine.
What is that chapter about?
Oh, well, you're going to have to read it, and let me see
Oh,
what this is chapter.
There's just no getting out of reading
This
this.
is
No getting out of it.
She's not gonna let me off
I'm
the
going to
hook.
I'll tell you something.
Go ahead.
This chapter is so good that I'm not even going to summarize it because it's got a great bottom line. This is one with a great bottom line. So if I tell you this now, it's like ruining a joke. So I'm not doing that. But, and it's also beyond the free look at Amazon.com. You know, you can go, do you know this? Because I don't know how much you ever look at books. But if you go to Amazon.com
Right.
and you click on Hillary the Other Woman, there's a little thing that says, look inside. And it's free. And you can start with the forward and read the first, I don't know how many chapters. You can't get to chapter 36.
Right.
But you can get some other things and they're free. And then
Yeah, I
you can
usually don't read anything that has more than 36 pages.
I get that.
Yeah.
I would have guessed
Yeah.
eventually.
That's
Yeah,
why it's
I'm-
nice that these chapters stand alone.
And the chapters
you-
are short. The chapters are 4 to 5, 6 pages
Oh.
each one, and they stand alone. I did this primarily for media people because I know they have a short concentration span, and
don't-
mostly they don't have time.
Right, right.
They really don't have time, in all fairness. So the only chapter that's really long is chapter 46. It's called The Big Problem. And the big problem is that the problem is so big, there are so many Clinton scandals. People can't wrap their minds around it. So chapter 46 has the Clinton scandals listed in alphabetical order, and it takes 12 pages
Wow.
to cover that.
If you just listed the times Hillary has lied.
Oh, no,
where-
no, 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 I don't have enough room in this book. No,
I
there's
know.
not
I
enough
mean,
room.
I had a friend of mine on Facebook. She says, you know, I think she responded to something Hillary had done. And she goes, the only thing I would believe is if Hillary told me her name. I said, no, she lies about that too.
She was named after Sir Edmund Hillary, right?
Yes, exactly, exactly, which
Yeah.
was never the case.
6 years before he climbed Mount Everest.
Yeah, she.
I didn't know that she claimed that, really.
Yes, she
Oh,
did,
yeah.
yeah.
that's
Oh,
funny.
yeah, she did.
In
Wow.
the early '90s, she claimed that she was named after Sir Edmund Hillary, even though she was born 5 years prior to him climbing it.
No
He-
kidding.
Yeah, 5 or 6 years, I can't remember.
Yeah,
Something
it was,
like
it
that.
was insane. It was like an insane lie. Then you go to Scopes to double check it,
Yeah.
and they call it a white lie. That's
Well,
why I
you know who
reposted.
they are. I mean, you can't
I
really
know.
rely on
I
Snopes.
reposted it and said white lies matter. But anyway,
That's good.
How do they
That's
classify,
good. I'm going to give you credit for that one.
one in a row.
How do
One
they
in a row. It makes
classify-
up for anything at all, or
Oh,
no?
yeah, you're good now.
Okay, I'm good.
Bosnia,
Okay.
and when she said that she was coming under sniper fire.
Oh, yeah, that
Is
was-
that a white lie?
Yeah, that was probably a white lie, just a misunderstanding. She just couldn't.
It was a dream she had, probably.
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
Blaming Benghazi on a video.
that was inadvertent. That's actually. I tell you, I know that as a Republican, I want to harp on stuff like that, but as a citizen, it really, really bothers me because if the government told me the truth, at least reasonably frequently, when they came out with a story yesterday afternoon or today, that the correlation between the $400 million that they gave to the Iranians and the release to the hostages was a coincidence, I might believe them. But they lie, you know, common sense would tell me otherwise, but if somebody, if you came and told me something like that you had paid something that just happened, that this happened at the same time, I would believe you. My default position would be to believe you because you have always treated me honestly. Okay? But with the administration, how can you possibly believe that's even remotely true? Sorry. I get
No,
angry.
that's good. And the Clinton Foundation donations, all these coincidences. I mean, for example, Boeing Corporation donates money to the Clinton Foundation. And then the next week, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton approves the sale of $29 billion in fighter jets to Saudi Arabia, and then Saudi Arabia contributes $50 million to the Clinton Foundation.
Yeah.
Such coincidences.
Always follow the money.
I follow money,
Always.
and I have a bunch of these things listed in here. I cannot say that this is definitive because there are many, many more scandals. However, I can say this. Everything that comes up every day, and I think we've talked about this, no matter what the new scandal is, it's already covered in this book because past is prologue. And what they did, and what Billy and Hillary have been doing for the last 45 years, is indicative of what they're doing today and what they're going to continue to do in the future, unless, of course, someone puts them in jail.
Right, which isn't
That's not likely.
not likely, because apparently they have
They have a get-out-of-jail-free card.
somewhere.
And they keep printing more of them.
Yeah, they're Teflon. Nothing sticks to them.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to you, because that's the big thing you bring to the table is having a relationship with Bill Clinton for that many years. You get to see how they behave as opposed to what the media, what we're told,
Right.
how they behave. And what was the big takeaways from?
The big takeaway?
Yeah, in other words, like I know that you've said that the one of the things that, because you knew Bill when he was young.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I wanted to ask you. This is a little bit. Oh, jeez, I'm nuts.
Oh, good.
You met
It's
him-
like a family reunion.
You met him on a
Golf
course. Now he was the child of a single mother.
Mm-hmm.
How could he afford to go golfing? It's not. I was middle class, so we didn't really go golfing.
Was he a caddy?
We went and shot rats.
No, he wasn't a caddy, and it is a bit of a long story, but it does lead you to understand that he was not a poor kid. There were several factors involved. Number one, Virginia, his mother, whom I knew quite well, was a nurse anesthetist. You say that 3 times.
I can't even say it once.
Okay, and so she was making a good living.
Okay.
But his Uncle Raymond, who owned the Buick dealership there, was wealthy, and Uncle Raymond provided their cars. I'm not sure whether they were sold at a bargain or leased or lent.
Whatever.
Or, you know, I don't know what the arrangement was, but Billy always had a nice big Buick to drive.
Okay.
And he was on the golf course with his cousin, Corky Clinton, who's Uncle Raymond's son. Now, in this small world that's Arkansas, I knew Uncle Raymond from being 6 years old. I knew him as Uncle Raymond. And his brother Roy was Uncle Roy, who worked for my daddy.
Right.
And then there was one more brother, the reprobate Roger Clinton, whom I did not ever call uncle. I was not close to him. He was an alcoholic, and he was Billy's stepfather, from whom he got the name Clinton.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so when I met Billy on the golf course, my friend introduced me. She said, "Oh, that's Uncle Raymond's son, Corky Clinton." Okay, so I thought, "Oh, Uncle Raymond's son. Okay, so this is my cousin because he's my Uncle Raymond." And then Corky said, "And this is my cousin Billy Clinton." So all these people who are not related, all of a sudden, I think I'm cousins with Billy Clinton. I'm like, you know.
Right.
And he
right.
was,
Yeah.
like that. And so there was this sense not only of, well, and he was about 3 or 4 inches taller than I was, which was pretty impressive back then. The tallest, almost always the tallest girl in the class. And anyway, so we had that, and then the family relationship went on over years, decades,
Right,
and
right.
friendship, and all that, and that's what happens in a small town. So I had that insight. The other thing is this, and this is important to say, and since you didn't really say it, I'll say it. I'm not stupid. I'm not a bimbo. I'm not someone who can be lumped into those other categories. And so what I do bring to the table is background in psychology before I went to law school.
Okay.
And then...
Yeah. That's a prerequisite to some law degrees, isn't it?
I don't know that it is, but it's a really helpful,
helpful,
thing.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very helpful. And so, but what that mostly says because that was my 6th major in college, I was finding new, everything I took, it was like, oh, this is interesting,
Yeah.
this is new, this is great, I love this. But it's my tendency to want to know why people do what they do.
Yep.
And so I have always been a bit of a student of psychology. So don't bother these guys with saying, hey, she's not a clinical psychologist or psychiatrist and can't do this. That's not true. I am an intelligent person, and I can observe people's behavior, and I can make comments, and I can make judgments and decisions, and that's what I have done.
Yep.
Not only that, one of the important things, and this is why I first came to light, is that I was aware of Billy Clinton's sex addiction, okay? And that's why Paula Jones's lawyers subpoenaed me to testify in the Jones case way back in, 97, 97, I think it was.
Okay.
The end of 97, right before the Monica Lewinsky thing went. Phew.
Yeah.
Okay, and so I had written a novel, a loosely autobiographical novel. I started it as a therapeutic journal, and
Yep.
a lot of novels start like that. So I had written this book, and they subpoenaed me to testify. And the reason Billy Clinton admitted to me that he was a sex addict was that I had studied in my own life. I had 2 divorces, right? And at the end of the second divorce, I went,
What the heck's going on?
yeah, what's going on? What is the common denominator in these divorces? Well, obviously, it was Dolly Kyle. I was the only common denominator. So I thought, okay, something is wrong here. And I started looking, I got in therapy, I started to talk to people, and then what I did, I traced it back to when I was 16 years old. I
Yep.
was a 16-year-old virgin, had just graduated from high school, getting ready to go to college. Yes, 2 years early, skipped 2 grades. Okay.
I skipped a lot of things in school.
I
too.
bet you did. I bet you did. I don't remember seeing you there, so you
Yeah.
probably skipped a lot. But anyway,
Anyway.
anyway, August 1st, 1964, 16-year-old virgin. I was drugged and raped by one of Billy Clinton's friends.
Wow.
Okay? So,
Is he aware of it?
not then, but I told him on the day Elvis died, right before we knew Elvis died, on August the 16th, 1977. So
Okay.
13 years after I was raped, I told Billy about this. And even at that point, I had not had any therapy. I had not traced back
What was
what
going
happens.
on?
You know, the trajectory of a life can be changed over any kind of a trauma. And that's what that was. And so women, boys, girls, men, anyone who's been raped will sometimes tend to become frigid and not be able to enjoy sex, or they become promiscuous. And of course, being Italian, I went that way. So, sorry. Sorry, family. Okay.
I didn't know that was an Italian thing. That's not a stereotype I was aware of, but okay.
no, but I mean, you know, we do.
I'll jump in here. My theory, my own personal theory on that, from having experiences with that situation, is, and knowing a lot of women that have had that situation, is that it's a way of controlling, because controlling that they're not abused again, in a sense, because if you give it away to everyone, you give your sexuality away, nobody's taking it from you. So you're protecting
Okay.
yourself from
That's
it being stolen because you
exactly
give it
right.
away. You don't. That's how. So you're not really protecting yourself by protecting yourself in that way. It's
Sure.
if you know what I'm
No,
saying.
it does. That
Yeah.
does make sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. And the other thing, it's sort of like kids who are raised a certain way and then they rebel against their parents and they do the opposite and they think they're in control. Well, you're not in control if you're
No.
doing the exact opposite of what you were told to do. You're still
Right.
being controlled, but in a different way.
Right.
So anyway, there was all that. There was that sex addiction background. And I did not tell Billy until August of 77. And I did not know, it was 1 year later, he raped Juanita Broderick when he was Attorney General of Arkansas. I did not know about it then, and when I finally found out about it, honestly, it made me sick at my stomach because I
Yeah.
knew what rape had done to me.
Right.
And it probably never occurred to you that up to that point, that he would be capable of
Oh,
that.
no! I mean,
Yeah.
Billy was always very nice to me.
Yeah.
And when I was under oath in the Paula Jones case, when Billy's own lawyer was questioning me, he went out of his way to establish I had never worked for Billy, never worked for the state of Arkansas, never claimed sexual harassment, never claimed sexual assault, never claimed even rough, bad sex or anything like that. But all your sexual liaisons were consensual. Is that right? And I said, yes. So that was established under oath in the Jones case. Anyone else who wants more information, you can go online. You go Dolly Kyle, Paula Jones deposition. Boom, there it is.
Right. Right.
And so Billy's lawyers knew that. It was clear from day one. 2 months later, when Billy was testifying in the Jones case, when he realized that I was talking about the sex addiction, which he had admitted to me, because when I found out about it, you would share with someone, you say, oh my gosh, I found this about me, and it sounds like you too, and he says, yeah, we have this problem, and so we talked about that in a serious way.
It wouldn't be any different than run into an old friend and saying, wow, when we were growing up, I didn't know what was going on, but eventually I figured out I'm an alcoholic, and that's why I was acting
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's the same. It's just, and not coincidentally, but it's probably not the right word. But if you look at we have a big problem with heroin epidemic in New
Right.
Hampshire.
Right.
And alcoholism, alcohol still killing more people than heroin. And if you look at those lives, much of that is a reaction to trauma, whether it's rape
Exactly. Exactly.
or all kind. It's like you said. It's like a marble going down. You ever see those marbles? You drop it at the top and it hits all the little things.
Uh-huh.
And it's the same kind of thing. If that marble's going down, all of a sudden it gets thrown off course by sexual abuse or something like that, it just changes that destination.
Yeah.
So with our problem with heroin addiction in this state, I asked a constituent who told me that he was a recovering heroin addict. I asked him, how did this begin? What happened to you? Why did you decide to do this? Because obviously you didn't have a...
Yeah, nobody sets out to become
yeah,
heroin
nobody
addict.
has a gun put to their head and is told that they have to do heroin.
Correct.
Right.
And he said that he had been sexually assaulted as a kid and sexually abused over a long period of time, and nobody helped him, and nobody helped him do anything about it, and he just stopped caring if he lived or if he died.
Yeah, yeah,
So fighting that problem fights the heroin problem that we have.
yeah,
So
it does.
they're connected.
They are connected. Anyway,
And-
you writing down how many times I get off course?
Oh, please. I would just do that with the little lines. 1, 2,
Yeah.
3, 4, boom. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Hash marks, yes.
That's a lot easier. No, the phrase "stop caring about whether you're living or dying." Just for the record, I'm over this, and I have no intention of dying.
Right.
Okay, I'm not depressed. I'm not suicidal.
Yeah.
And
My
the brakes
car's
are
in great
good
shape.
working order.
The brakes,
Same thing with
brakes
mine.
are working on my car. My tires
Today.
are new.
Today.
Anyway, but it really isn't funny because of the number of people who have died after saying things.
Right.
I think I'm out there enough that people would say, "Whatever happened to Dolly?" And
Right.
Catherine
Yeah.
would say, "I don't know. She was at my house, but there were fish on the porch, and then she left."
They don't know that. They don't know
Oh,
that story.
sorry.
We'll get to that in a little bit.
The fish on the... Okay.
I must say, I'm curious.
Yeah, we'll save that to the end
Shall
so
I-
people stay tuned.
Yeah,
Save
stay
the fish.
tuned. We'll get to the fish on
Stay
the
tuned for the
Fish on the
fish.
porch.
driveway in a little bit.
Right.
Okay, so all right. So where was I going with this? Billy was deposed in the Jones case and lied about me under oath. Okay, and he submitted handwritten, his own handwriting testimony about me. Long story. It's in the book, but long story. And he had Marcia Scott, one of his aides, also handwrite this testimony. So Dave Shippers, the chief investigative counsel for the Clinton impeachment, who wrote the foreword to my book, by the way,
Okay.
investigated all this and found that what Billy said under oath was absolutely lie. Lie after lie after lie. So what we had in his own testimony, coupled with handwritten letters from him to me, some of which are attached to the online deposition, he was clearly guilty of perjury,
Right.
suborning perjury, witness tampering, and obstruction of justice.
Right.
Oh, does this sound
Huh.
like impeachment charges? Yes. And Dave Shippers, as he says in the foreword to my book, picked me to be the primary prosecution witness at the impeachment because I was unimpeachable. I had not only my testimony, as I would be saying to you all right now, but the written
Yeah,
testimony
yeah.
that corroborated my story. So that was really important, and the thing that people have missed totally is about what everyone calls Filegate. Okay. And I have a chapter called Sick and Tired of All the Gates, because the media attaches the word gate to something, and it's like, oh, poo-poo, it's another gate.
Way
Travelgate,
to
Filegate.
minimize it.
It minimizes it. Think about this. Hillary, in 1993, when they just got into the White House, had Craig Livingstone. Oh, Craig Livingstone's became the White House Director of Personnel Security.
Okay.
Okay? His background, bar bouncer.
Sounds perfect.
Because it's, for an Irishman, it's perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so, anyway, so he goes to the FBI and gets 900 files on various people in Washington. Now, we don't know who those 900 people are, do we?
Right.
Okay? And then those files were subpoenaed. They disappeared. They were, in my opinion, in Vince Foster's office when he died, and then were taken out. And Hillary had no idea where they were until they showed up 2 years later on a table upstairs in the White House. So I talk about this in the book, and it's like, okay, I can figure out how this happened, right? Now, look at this. Here's not even a file, but you can notice that on the desk.
Correct.
So if you had 20 files, you'd notice that. If I had 900 files here, we'd see that, right?
Yeah.
So the only way this could have happened is that those 900 files were on a table upstairs in the White House, and no one ever went up there to clean the room
Right.
in 2 years.
Or if there was a hoarding issue.
Right.
Massive hoarding issue.
Right.
Yeah, very, very good.
And it was just lost in the
Lost in the
Yes.
shuffle. But the
Stuff.
only fingerprints on there were Vince Foster's and Hillary's and Craig's, so go figure.
Just a coincidence.
But yeah, so here's the thing. 1993, so fast forward to the impeachment. And all these members of Congress know that Hillary had these files for 2 years. They don't have an alphabetized list of whose files those were. So every person in Washington with a secret, could there be a lot? Having to do with sex
almost-
or money or whatever. They
That
were,
was almost like what happened in New Hampshire when Kyle Tasker, who was
Oh, yeah,
one-
the so-called list of
The so-called
people he may
list
have
of people
sold
that he would
drugs to at the State House.
everybody was running scared around
is a
the
rep that
State
was
House
arrested.
yeah.
because they thought, maybe they're on the
Maybe
list.
they're on the list. Okay, so that's the thing. And then Larry Flint, the publisher of Hustler magazine, offered $1 million reward payment for anyone who would come up with stories about people on
I remember
the
this.
Judiciary Committee, right?
Yep, I remember this.
So these people are petrified, and there was not a collective backbone in Congress.
Whoa,
And so-
whoa! You expect to find backbones and invertebrates?
Okay, now you're getting all sciencey.
I'm
I didn't know there was going to be that on this show.
I'm impressed with. I didn't know he knew that word.
That's four syllables right there.
It is. It is.
It is.
Wow. I didn't read that anywhere.
And if you say
Trust me
and,
on that.
and if you were in the South and you said that, you could turn it into 5 or 6 syllables. But that's okay. Good job. But anyway, so that's a problem. And, I make light of it a little bit because otherwise you could cry, you could
Yeah.
scream, you could get really upset. But the fact is, people need to understand this is what Hillary Clinton does. Okay? She blackmails, she intimidates. This is why I call her a terrorist. A terrorist achieves a political aim through violence, threats, and intimidation. And she has been
Subversion.
doing that forever since 1974 that I know of.
Yeah.
When she went to Arkansas and Billy was dating me and other people, and Marla Kreider, lovely young woman at the University of Arkansas, again, in the book. But Hillary got wind of it because she sent her father and her brother down to Arkansas to spy on Billy.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. And so, nice. Anyway, good family. Not even Italian. But, so they found out about Marla. She came down. She went through Billy's papers and everything, found these letters from Marla, and shredded them. So this is Hillary Scissorhands getting started with her career of destroying documents that could in any way implicate Billy for anything. And she started threatening and intimidating Marla, phone calls in the middle of the night, that sort of thing. Now, how do I know so much about Marla? In this small world that is Arkansas, a couple of decades later, Marla ended up dating my first ex-husband and became friends with one of my daughters. And, so she knew about me and Billy. So, we had
Yeah.
the conversation. Marla was a sweet and wonderful person. She died of breast cancer in November of 2014. Everyone still misses her. She was lovely. And anyway, but I know these things in Arkansas, not just from what I observed, but from so many people. We're all connected down there. Everyone knows these things. But I can't tell you how many people are petrified to say anything about the Clintons. I get emails every day with new information from people about, and they're afraid. And when I say, could I just tell this story? I won't mention your name. I'll change the
Right.
city. I'll do this. I never hear from them again.
Yeah.
They're so scared.
They figure someone will figure it out. who they are.
Someone will
Yeah.
figure out, and friends of mine who read this book in advance, and I wanted to thank them for they didn't even want me to thank them in the book.
No kidding.
No, I mean seriously.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. When Billy and I were having this talk about sex addiction, and at one point we were talking about Wilt Chamberlain. I don't know if you're too young to remember this.
I heard of him.
Heard of it?
In the history books.
In the history book, yeah, in the history books, great.
In your book. That was not a history
In
book,
my
but
book.
yeah.
So Wilt Chamberlain was a very well-known, you would know this, you consider him a kid, I'm sure, but he was a very well-known basketball player.
That's two.
Kid, okay, my man. And he bragged that he'd had sex with 20,000 women,
Yes.
okay?
Which strikes me as mathematically impossible.
Silly boy.
Well, I'm not going to ask, but I mean, how can there be enough hours
You're
in a
young.
day?
You're young. Well, you don't actually have to take them to dinner and serve them wine and have foreplay, okay?
Oh, I see. I didn't know. No,
Okay,
nobody told me
it
that
can
until now.
be a broom closet thing for a moment.
All
Okay?
right, I didn't
okay,
know.
Okay,
Okay.
We won't go there. And there's nothing salacious in the book. You'll learn nothing about that.
Oh, now Gary's definitely not going to read
It's
it.
definitely
knows
not
nothing. I was even more
I'm assuming. Well, you're right.
I was
Anyhow,
thinking of
back to
reading.
Will.
Yeah.
Anywho, back to Will Chamberlain.
Back to
Yes.
Will Chamberlain.
Back on track.
So Billy's listened to this, and with a mixture of awe and a little jealousy, he said, "Wow, that's 10 times the number of women I've had." So even if he were exaggerating with the 2,000 number, let's
Yeah.
cut it in half. It was only 1,000. Oh, but I'm sorry. That was back in the 1980s. He's had 3 more since then.
Right.
Duh.
You know, it's funny when you were talking about the files and Hillary destroying files, that it made me think of the email scandal and how it's almost like with the servers and everything and her trying to get rid of these emails, it's like her doing what she used to do, but now grappling with technology and not knowing quite how to deal with it. So she screws it up and she's clumsy with it.
Exactly. And you won't believe this, but when Chelsea was, 3-4 years old, she went to the Montessori school in Little Rock.
Yeah.
Hillary had her pictures shredded from there because she didn't want people to realize that Chelsea went to a private school before she went to a public school.
Yeah.
And when they left the governor's mansion, she shredded the visitors' logs, which would have shown
Wow.
my name. Yeah, my name.
She's thorough. You got to give her that.
Well,
wow.
she certainly tried.
Yeah.
She shredded the visitors' logs. The very morning that they left, one of the women Billy was having an affair with was there at 5 o'clock in the morning. That would have been the last entry, probably.
Yeah.
Shoop, shredded. Then she
Wow.
goes to work for the Rose Law Firm and shreds the billing records and shreds documents there, shreds their information about Whitewater. And I have to say this, and would you admit, Chapter 30 is the best, most concise explanation of Whitewater ever.
It was pretty good. It was almost as good as that song on Saturday Night Live where they had the rock musicians do that song to explain Whitewater. Do you remember that?
Oh, I don't.
It was a joke.
I couldn't stay
It
up
was a
that
joke.
late.
It was like it was a spoof on Feed the World.
Oh, yeah,
Something,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it was rock musicians all came together to explain Whitewater.
Well-
you'll have to look it up
Now
now.
I have to check it out. But one
But
of
this
the
was
things,
even better.
well, one of the things that the Clintons do, and I talk about this in Chapter 17. I got this from Dave Martin in Washington. DC Dave is what he goes by. The Clintons' 17 truth suppression techniques, and one of those truth suppression techniques is to put out the word that something is so complex. That maybe Matt could get it, but Gary wouldn't have a prayer. Okay? Okay, there is that my 3? Very good. You owe me a beer.
I don't
Maybe
drink.
you owe him a
I don't
beer.
either.
Huh.
Okay.
Anyway, we got that settled.
Anyway, they act like something is so complicated that no one can understand it.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is, and as you said, follow the money.
Right.
So I set this Whitewater scenario out like a play with the script and all of this and the characters, and here's what happened. It's really quite simple.
Right.
Oh, duh, follow the money. And they talk about, well, no one went to prison over this. It was no big deal, blah, blah, blah. Excuse me? People went to prison.
Yeah.
People went to prison. And a lot of people around
Susan
the
McDougal.
Clintons have gone to
Yep,
prison.
I remember that name.
And why did Susan McDougal go to prison? This is what's important.
I
This
don't
is what's
remember.
really important. She went to prison for contempt of court
Oh,
because
okay.
she had been given immunity for her testimony. But when it got down to the question, did Bill Clinton lie when he testified about this, she refused to answer.
Okay.
And
then
which
what happened?
means clearly he lied.
Right,
I mean, that's
right.
what it means.
Because
but she
why
would
else?
not say the word.
Right.
And therefore, she spent 2 years in prison.
And then what happened? In the
And
end,
well,
she was pardoned.
well, of course she was pardoned. But
Yeah.
but her husband Jim McDougal was in the Federal Correctional Institute in Fort Worth, which is where Roger Clinton, by the way, was for drug dealing,
Oh.
but at a different time.
Yeah.
It's all in the book. But
Yeah.
And pardoned also by the president. I should make that clear, by Bill Clinton.
well, Jim McDougal didn't live to be pardoned.
Oh, okay.
Jim McDougal, who was in prison for some sort of bank fraud, was put in solitary confinement. Now, if anyone knew Jim McDougal, which I knew Jim for years, great guy, intelligent, great sense of humor. You would love Jim McDougal.
I would have.
You would have. You really would have. Anyway, so he's in solitary confinement, and he has a heart attack, and they have a defibrillator there.
Yeah.
Did they use it?
No.
No.
Just let him die.
Do they put him in an ambulance and take him to the nearest hospital? No, they take him to the hospital on the other side of the county
Wow.
where he dies.
That's suspicious. to
Is
say the
it?
least.
Is it really?
Is it?
A little
You're
bit.
cynical.
A
You're
little
just
bit.
wicked
I
cynical.
know. And I
So-
said earlier I was an optimist, but yeah,
Yeah.
I'm cynical.
So we're skipping all over the place, but the consistent piece of this is follow the money, watch the Clintons lie. Follow the money, watch the Clintons lie. Follow the money, watch the Clintons lie. Watch people around them take the hits for them because they're afraid. Webb Hubbell went to prison because he didn't cooperate, even though he'd been given some immunity. And he's now writing novels, which is a safer thing to do. I probably should have stuck with the novels, but they tried to prevent the publication of my novel as well. And it's like, it's just a novel, people.
Do you believe, by the way, and maybe it's in your book, the theory that Webb Hubbell is actually Chelsea Clinton's dad? You don't believe that?
I do not believe that, and I do address it in the book because I knew people would ask.
Yeah.
Roger Stone and Robert Morrow put that in their book, that they truly believe that Webb Hubbell is Chelsea's father. They take it from that lip thing.
Yeah.
And if you go back and you look at pictures of Dorothy Rodham, Hillary's mother, at early 20s, spit an image. I showed you the picture that I had, didn't I? Spit an image
Yeah.
of Chelsea Clinton. And if you go back and look at Virginia Clinton, Billy's mother,
Yeah.
in her early 20s, she's got the big bottom lip too.
Yeah, I've always
So
thought she looks like Bill.
and she looks more like her grandmother's than she does,
Yeah.
But I don't have any problem with that. Now, if somebody comes up with a definitive DNA test, I can say I'm wrong. I've been wrong how many times? 3?
No, you were actually right all 3 times, so I don't know.
But even
That doesn't negate the fact that I was offended,
Oh,
but still, you were right.
that Webb Hubbell thing.
Gary's very sensitive.
That Webb
Wicked
Hubbell thing is a
sensitive.
little, it's a little interesting, but it's really not material to
Yeah.
all of the other things that you're saying. It's just
Yeah.
it's a side issue. It's
Well,
not
plus
really
I don't think Roger
the big
Stone
thing.
has a ton of credibility anyway.
no, you know what? I like Roger Stone. I have to tell you, I was at the Republican National Convention in Cleveland, which is where I met him, and I had a table where I was selling my books, and Roger's table was next to me selling books,
Yeah.
and he came with his entourage and the cameras, and he picked up my book, and he said, and he's like this to the cameras and to people, and he says, "This is a great book.
Well, that's
Everyone
cool.
read this book." And,
That's cool,
Okay,
yeah.
and then He was doing a book signing at Barnes & Noble the next day, and he invited me to come
Oh, really?
to Barnes & Noble and share the spotlight with him
Right.
and have my book signed, and I thought that was very gracious of him. The fact that we disagree about some of these issues
Yeah. Because
doesn't
he's kind of
negate
a conspiracy theory guy. You know?
Well, I tell you what, if you
Yeah, he's
live in
around
Arkansas,
college
you
shows.
might be a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
You know what we know.
So
Yeah.
if we bring this to the current day, we have a pattern of Hillary Clinton trying to whitewater all her records from all the way back to when they left the governor's mansion, just trying to wipe out any kind of evidence, that theoretical evidence or whatever, and a history of intimidating, blackmailing anybody they need to get what they want. So the probability, if you just go by that pattern, all we really need to do is find out what blackmail they had on the people surrounding that FBI investigation into her
The emails
opening up
and the
secure,
server,
top
yeah.
secret information to foreign governments. I mean, obviously, I think any reasonable person understands that that's illegal. Any federal agent or federal or military person who allowed that quantity or even any top secret information
Any.
to be that exposed to foreign powers would be in jail. They would lost their security clearance, fined, lost their job, the whole 9 yards. The spectrum is quite wide open. And yet nothing happened.
And yet nothing happened. And then there was the young military man, I can't remember if he was a Marine or what, in the Pentagon, and he had a file on his desk. And he got up, he was doing something, and he left it there. He went across the hall, and he came back and realized he had left it exposed, and he went in and resigned from the Corps, resigned his commission, because he had done this terribly careless thing.
Wow.
With, yeah.
Well, that's a person with integrity.
That
We're
is
not
a
talking
person.
that-
Well, yeah, we're not
no one
talking
would
about the
have
Clintons.
even known. Wow.
But I want to bring something else up. I don't know how much time we have here, but just when
we
you
have
said-
about 5 or 6 minutes.
okay, then I'm going to quickly go through this, because when you brought up the term blackmail, the word black stuck in my mind. We haven't talked at all about the Clintons' racial discrimination, and
Okay.
I don't know what I don't know what the composition of your audience is, but I particularly try to tell African Americans, don't take my word for this. I mean, it's in the book, but don't take my word for this. Google it. Google the racial discriminations filed against Billy Clinton when he was governor of Arkansas, and I lump Hillary in this because they've been two for the price of one all along.
Yeah.
Okay? And racial suits were filed against him by African Americans in Arkansas. He lost those suits.
I didn't know this. Wow.
No, he lost those suits. And then, so to not be just racially discriminating against only blacks, he ordered the Arkansas State Police to stop and search every car and truck in Arkansas driven by an Hispanic. And he thought he could get away with this because
Wow.
back then nobody said anything.
Right.
But the Hispanics filed a federal lawsuit under the 1965 Voter Rights Act, and guess what? They won, and Billy was reprimanded by a federal judge for racial discrimination. And then
Wow. I didn't know about
that
any
made
of this.
him so angry,
Yeah.
he told the state police they could stop and search anyone, which was his way of saying to the federal courts.
What year was this? Do you know offhand?
80s, in the 80s.
Okay.
I mean, you can Google it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
I don't-
dead second.
I mean, to me, their racism is so profoundly obvious, because when you see Hillary go into a black neighborhood and start talking, she immediately starts pretending, or her voice.
Oh, it's disgusting.
Like, that is so condescending. I can't understand how they don't see it. And just like, are you kidding me? You
That
know?
can be a
and the other
subconscious
thing
but
is
probably
That's
not.
no-
Probably
no,
not in her case. I'm
no
saying it
way.
can be. But
I have personally heard Billy Clinton call, say McIntosh, who was a black activist in Little Rock, Jesse Jackson, people like that,
yeah.
a GDN,
Really?
all caps.
Wow.
Yeah, okay? And Hillary, as we know, famously has done the racial slurs against Jews. Now, I also want to bring up something else. we're talking about investigations. Who's going to do that? What investigative reporter can do a story on the Clintons and have their superiors allow them to publish it? Did you know I filed a lawsuit against Billy Clinton when he was a sitting president?
No, I didn't.
No.
Yeah, a federal RICO lawsuit against him and a half a dozen other people. And he filed a motion saying he shouldn't have to answer this because he was president of the United States.
Yeah.
And the district court said, yeah, you have to answer this. So he appealed it to the appeals court, and the appeals court said, yeah, you have to answer this. And it went to the United States Supreme Court, and the United States Supreme Court said, yes, you have to answer this, you have to deal with this. And Lisa Myers of NBC, the same woman who interviewed Juanita Broderick in that very powerful piece about
Yep.
Juanita's rape,
I remember that.
Lisa Myers asked me to do an interview, because I was in Washington at the time, wanted to interview me on the steps of the federal courthouse. She called me the night before. She said, Dolly, we can't do the interview in the morning. And I, honest to God, a little bit naive, said, why, is it going to be raining? I mean, She said, no. The NBC higher-ups nixed it. So we have a piece of a lawsuit against a sitting president that goes to the United States Supreme Court, and the president loses, and NBC doesn't report it. Okay, not to mention that.
What year would that have been?
98, maybe.
So that's
Okay.
why it wasn't all over the internet, because there wasn't.
There wasn't really much of an internet presence. And I also want to say this about NBC. Andrea Mitchell said, in talking about Juanita Broderick, said that Juanita's story of being raped by Billy had been debunked, okay, just today, because Juanita's son and lawyer, who is a lawyer, sent letters to NBC saying, you need to retract that story, because saying the story had been debunked is basically calling Juanita a liar.
Right.
Right? And so they went in, and this just came out today, and they took out the word debunked from the online story. And I'm saying, and I wish people would just rise up and insist on it, if NBC said that on, what, a morning show or something, they should do the retraction on the morning show.
Right.
They should talk about that. Okay.
I want to add one thing else as well. When Juanita was being interviewed by Lisa Myers for Dateline NBC back in February of '99, they stopped the interview when Juanita talked about how Hillary Clinton was involved and how Hillary Clinton threatened her to stay quiet about that when Hillary Clinton knew that it was a rape, not a consensual affair. They stopped that and said, you can't talk about that. So
Well,
we're not getting the whole
We
story.
got to close up, but we already have, and thank goodness for what's the WikiLeaks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I have to say one more thing before we close, and I will say it fast.
Okay,
In
fast.
Chapter 50, this is important. Forget politics. Hillary Clinton, who has been a liar for 40 years, is cognitively impaired. And I set this out. I went to the Centers for Disease Control, because I was a psych major, right? Here's the symptoms for cognitive impairment. Here's what Hillary Clinton has evidenced. The woman is cognitively impaired. She is, as they say, losing it. And this is why she can't do press conferences. This is why she can't answer
Oh,
questions.
yeah.
She's cognitively impaired. Somebody said, what does that mean? It's like, duh.
My dad says that all the time, and he's a
It's in here, and
He's a shrink, and-
it's well
He says that-
documented.
He says that about Hillary Clinton.
about Hillary, that he sees her on TV and he feels that there's something wrong
She
with
is
her.
cognitive.
Yeah.
If she were
Yeah.
your grandmother,
Yeah.
you would start thinking about how you're going to take care of her.
You would
Right.
think
You're
about
not going to
taking.
put her in the White House and let her have access to nuclear weapons.
Right.
You might think
Right.
about taking her license away, but she doesn't drive anyway. And
Yeah.
hasn't
Yeah.
since.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
This
so that's
80s.
what I wanted to say, because
Yeah.
that is critically important, and I don't care what someone's political party is, I do not want a cognitively impaired person in the White House.
What about state representative? Is that okay?
Well, how much
Not in
damage
the White
can
House,
they do?
no.
Oh no,
Oh, I don't know. Whoever-
I am not cognitively impaired.
No, she's not. She's quite sharp.
I wasn't
And-
talking
and
about
so-
her.
Oh, and such a person of integrity.
Thank you.
I have to tell you, I was so impressed when I first started hearing about Katherine, and I'm honored to know her.
Thank you. Right back at you.
Representative Katherine, thank you very much.
Yes.
You're awesome. Dolly, it's a pleasure meeting you. It's
Really?
nice to have you back. It's nice to have you back where you
Thank you.
belong. Get it? Nice
Yeah, right. You're going to sing that?
Anyway, we'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.